It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Angel Stadium in Anaheim, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Angels. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Tuesday evening to you. Game 2 of the 3-game series, and for the Dodgers, so far so good. They've now beaten the Angels 7 straight, going back to 3 victories last year, and going for number 8 tonight with Clayton Kershaw. By the way, the Dodger magic number, so to speak, is now 17. That would be any combination of Dodger victories and or Giant defeats that add up to 17, and the Dodgers would then win the division. And in talking about 17, the Giants are over in Arizona. 17 is the magic number to wipe them out for the division. 17 is the magic number to wipe them out as even a wild card. And who's on the mound? Tim Hudson. His number is, you got it, number 17. Meanwhile, here, Clayton Kershaw with a 12-win record so far this year, 251 strikeouts to lead the major leagues. He's been pitching brilliantly the last 11 games. And by the way, if he goes 6 innings tonight, he will pitch 200 innings for 5 of the last 6 years. The 1 year he missed, he went 198 and a third. On the mound for the Angels, a fine young pitcher. Dodgers had him for about an hour in a complicated deal with the Marlins that sent D. Gordon to Florida. Heaney passed through the Dodgers on his way to the Angels in order for the Dodgers to get Howie Kendrick. So the Dodgers, with an 8.5-game lead, take the field tonight, and we'll bring you the ball game right after this. You may be. It is a hot night. It is a somewhat humid night. And above all, it's the Dodgers and the Angels. So a lot going on here tonight at Angel Stadium. Dodgers having won 12 of 14. And they've also enjoyed winning 7 straight against the Angels. That, of course, counts the last 3 meetings last year and the first 4 this year. As we look at the lineups, a dramatically different lineup for the Dodgers. You have Justin Ruggiano leading off in left field, Chase Utley at second base. They move Justin Turner at third base in the number 3 slot. Adrian Gonzalez plays first tonight. Scott Van Slyke is in right field. Corey Seager at shortstop yet again as he stands on alongside Alex Guerrero. After Seager, it's A.J. Ellis, the catcher. Then Alex Guerrero, the DH, and Chris Heisey in center field batting ninth. On the mound, one of the fine young pitchers in the American League who was with the Dodgers for about an hour, and that, of course, would be Andrew Heaney. Heaney was involved in that long deal. Dodgers sent D. Gordon to Miami. Miami sent Heaney to the Dodgers, and then the Dodgers sent Heaney to the Angels in order to get Howie Kendrick. For Andrew Heaney, he's 6'2", 190, out of Oklahoma City, a first-round pick by the Marlins, went to school at Oklahoma State. Kind of interesting because now the number 1 Dodger farm club is Oklahoma City. Justin Ruggiano, who has done great things in a brief time with the Dodgers, and the right-hand hitting outfielder takes a strike. He's had a couple of big base hits to drive in runs, and then last night Ruggiano came in and had a key double to drive in a couple. 1 ball and 1 strike the count. The temperature at game time 91 degrees and pretty high in humidity as well. 1-1 pitch on the way, and that's taken a little low. Ball 2, 2-1. The cloud formation is indeed different. Way off to the left, straight away left field down the line. There's a puff of white cloud puffing up out of the sky, and the best way to psychologically cool off is to look at that thing and make believe it's an iceberg. At least we try to help. 3-1 to count. Ruggiano waiting with Utley on deck. Heaney into the windup, flips a fastball, swung on, hit foul out of play, and the count goes 3-2. Couple of notes now about Andrew. Number 1, when he starts, the Angels have a good chance to win. They are 9-4 in his games. He also gets pretty good run support, almost 5 runs a game. A tremendous shot to dead center. Trout looking up, and that's up in the rocks. Justin Ruggiano continues to give you the reason why the Dodgers got him in the first place. He drives it out. That's his second home run as a Dodger. Boy, did he crush that thing. I mean, if you look at center field, it's just shy of 400, and he hit it into Rock City, and it was a mile high. For Heaney, that would be the 8th home run that he's allowed, and he gets a standing ovation from his teammates in the dugout. So just like that, Dodgers are out in front, 1-0. So Ruggiano gets him well immediately. And now the batter is Chase Utley with a modest 6-game hitting streak, and he takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Utley will be followed by Turner and then Gonzalez. So the Dodgers go to the muscle very early. They have now hit 163 home runs as Utley takes a little low, 1 ball, 1 strike. The Angels, no slouch. They've hit 143. The Justin Ruggiano sours the beginning for Mike Scioscia, and the Dodgers lead 1-0. Left-hander comes back. Utley pulls it foul outside of first down the line. A couple of more notes about left-hander Andrew Heaney. He gets 4.8 run support. That's pretty good. In fact, the Angels have scored 6 or more runs in half of his starts. Left-hander ready. And the 1-2 pitch on the way. Utley swings right through a breaking ball, and down he goes. So 1 out in the first inning, and Justin Turner coming up. We can tell the Angels and the Halos where they are. It's Cron, Featherston, Ibar, and Freeze, Victorino, Trout, and Calhoun. Iannetta behind the plate. In fact, Iannetta has done a good job catching Heaney. His earned run average when Iannetta is catching is 2.4. When Perez catches him, it's almost 4. So here's Turner. Right-hand hitter takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Turner batting .290. And there you see Corey Seager in the dugout behind Jimmy Rollins and Don Mattingly. In fact, when we look at Heaney, he looks a little bit like Seager. Ground ball up the middle. Nice pick by Ibar on the run, and throws him out. So 2 down in the first inning, and now Adrian Gonzalez coming up. Dodgers had a big night last night. 16 base hits. Turner, I think, might have hurt his arm a little bit on that swing. For Adrian Gonzalez, he was the only one in the starting lineup last night without a base hit. However, he still picked up an RBI with a sacrifice fly in the 6th inning, and he also walked once. Heaney into the windup and delivers, and the first pitch a little low, ball 1. The thing about Heaney, and remember, Ruggiano didn't hang around too long. If you put the first pitch in play, the opposition is hitting .394 against Heaney as Adrian fouls it away. 1 ball and 1 strike. In all the other counts, after the 1-0 and the 0-1, the opposition is hitting only .205. But those first 2 counts, opposition hitting better than .350. Adrian takes high and away. 2 balls and 1 strike the count. And one other interesting note about Heaney, the 7th through the 9th hitters are hitting .300 against him. Here's the 2-1 pitch coming up. Left-hander's fastball is off the plate, and that runs the count 3-1. Justin Ruggiano, what a lift he's given the Dodgers. Wow. Now the 3-1 pitch on the way. Adrian swings through a high fastball, and the count 3-2. 1-0 Dodgers, first inning. We're just starting. That was a monster game last night. Here's the 3-2 pitch on the way. Adrian swings, and down he goes. So for Gonzalez, struggling a wee bit. He struck out last night 3 times and strikes out the first time tonight. But Ruggiano didn't strike out. He hit it into Rock City in center field, cheering by Scott Van Slyke. And at the end of half an inning, 1-0 Dodgers. Look at Mike Socha's lineup, and you show when you look at the top hitters, the first 3, you realize they are really top heavy. You have Cole Calhoun, who has 22 home runs. You have Mike Trout, who has 34. And you have Albert Pujols with 35. So that means that's 91 home runs amongst the first three hitters. That would be 63% of all of the Angel home runs. So when the top of the Angel lineup comes up, everybody sits up and pays attention. Dodgers lead 1-0, and here's Cole. Left-hand batter swings after the first pitch. He is a notorious first pitch hitter. He also pays the price. He struck out 3 times last night. So Clayton Kershaw, trying to win his 13th, looks down the barrel to get a sign from his buddy A.J. Ellis. And the left-hander ready and comes back. Fastball chased and missed. It was low. Calhoun went after it, and 0-2 the count. Calhoun pays a price, of course, hitting home runs. He has struck out 125 times. Mike Trout has struck out 133. Pujols, however, is a different case. He's only struck out 65. The pitch to Calhoun is low. 1 ball and no strike. For the Angels, last night's game was a franchise record. 9 pitchers used in 9 innings. They had 9 pitchers in a game against the Red Sox, but that was a 19-inning game. Calhoun takes in the dirt, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. For Clayton Kershaw, you could spend about a half hour talking about what he has done. He is 1-0. He beat Heaney and the Angels August 1. 3-2 lifetime against them. He needs 6 innings. 6 innings tonight. He'll get to the 200 mark. Here's the 2-2 pitch on the way. Ground ball just foul. All eyes on Tripp Gibson. And Tripp, as all good umpires, was not in a hurry to call it back down the line. There's going to be an argument a bit. But Tripp, as he was backing away, was looking at the ball all the way, and the ball was fouled. So Show has to be a little frustrated anyway. Comes out to grumble and get it off his chest. He has a sizable chest. Bottom of the first inning, 1-0, favor of the Dodgers. Dodgers are a break-even 9-9 against the American League. The Angels are 7-11 against the National League. Dodgers red hot right now. They've won 12 of the last 14. 2-2 pitch on the way. Calhoun looks and it's low, ball 3. 3-2 the count. For the Dodgers, using 6 relievers last night. They have done that a breathtaking 9 times. Here's the 3-2 pitch coming up. Kershaw deals, swung on, high fly ball into deep right center. Out there is Van Slyke watching this ball go up into the stands as Van Slyke had both hands high in the air. Not sure if he was trying to decoy or just lost the ball, but that one up there clean. So 23 home runs for Calhoun, and what a way for the leadoff man to begin. Ruggiano, a home run for the Dodgers. Calhoun comes right back and hits one for the Angels. So Calhoun got a fastball above the knees, and he knew exactly what to do with it. It goes above the scoreboard. Last night we had a lady trying to catch it. Tonight there was no doubt where the ball went. Line drive to right. Van Slyke will pick it off. 1 away. Watching Clayton Kershaw on that long home run. He started the expression, oh my, and then watched it sail out. For Clayton Kershaw, he is now allowed 11 home runs. So the Dodgers star duo each touched up for a home run. Calhoun hit one last night against Greinke, and now one tonight against Kershaw. First pitch in for a strike to Mike Trout. Greinke with Coach Renke on one side, Brett Anderson on the other. Now the pitch coming up to Trout, and that's taken low. For the first time, Greinke was able to shut down Trout last night. He went 6 innings, struck out 5, gave up 7 hits. 1 ball and 1 strike. Pujols in a crouch and takes inside. 2-1. We were trying to conclude the thought about Mike Trout. Last night, Trout went 0 for 5, striking out 3 times. Probably his worst game offensively in his career. 2-1 pitch on the way, a shot up the middle, but waiting for it is Utley. Picks it up, flips over to first. 2 down. C.J. Cron coming up in a 1-1 tie in the first inning. Boy, how about Cole Calhoun? He can call Buckeye, Arizona and say, well, I've hit a home run against Greinke. I've hit a home run against Kershaw. And we still have another game to go. Kershaw ready, comes to his hitter, Cron. It's low. 1 ball and no strikes. Cron had a home run leading off the second inning last night against Greinke. CJ out of Phoenix, Arizona, but went to school at the University of Utah. Kershaw comes back with a fastball fouled away. For Kershaw, you have to wonder, how is he going to do tonight? Remember the last game against the Giants, 132 pitches, a complete game. In that game, there were 35 swings and misses. Change-up is high. 2-1 to count. So it was a magnificent effort by Clayton last time out, but we'll see if that has taken something away from him tonight. 2-1 pitch to C.J. Cron. Kershaw delivers fastball. Nothing wrong with that. Swung on and missed, and they count 2-2. Cron is a chip off the old block. His dad was a former player, now manages in the Tiger organization. In fact, his father tried to get up here with the Angels, but Wally Joyner had the job. Next pitch in the dirt. 3-2 the count. A 1-1 tie on home runs by Ruggiano and Calhoun. Waiting on deck, Eric Ibar. Now the 3-2 pitch coming up. Kershaw ready, unloads, high fastball. That would have been ball 4, and Cron strikes out. 252 strikeouts for Clayton. However, not Calhoun, who homered, and at the end of an inning, Dodgers won, Angels won. Shoulder to shoulder, good pals, and hopefully they each have a long and wonderful life. Cole Calhoun on a 3-2 pitch hit a home run. Justin Ruggiano on a 3-2 pitch hit a home run. So here's Scott Van Slyke, second inning in a 1-1 tie. Ground ball to Ibar. Eric is up with it and shoots him down. I'm not sure which was the weirder play. The ball that Van Slyke hit last night, the ball that went off the glove of Trevor Gott, rolled out to shot because Ibar was trying to back up, and Scott wound up with a double and 2 runs batted in. But I'm not sure if that was as weird as the base hit in the 9th inning last night that Calhoun had. That's when Kenley Jansen tried to backhand the ball with his back to home plate, slapped it back towards A.J. Ellis, and Ellis couldn't pick it up. So there were 2 weird plays. Meanwhile, here is Seager. I think Seager would look a lot like Heaney if he had a mustache. He hits a ground ball to the right side. Routine play for Featherston. And just like that, 2 down. So 2 out here in the second inning, and the batter A.J. Ellis. We have a 1-1 tie. We're in the second inning. On deck, the DH, Alex Guerrero. Garrett Richards tomorrow night, and it looks like Matt Latos will pitch for the Dodgers. Dodgers then will move on and go to Arizona. Talking about Arizona, the Giants are leading them, the last we checked, 4-0, and in the third inning. First pitch high and away, ball 1 to AJ. We mentioned it in the opening, if you missed it. Interesting. 17 is the magic number. 17, Dodger wins, Giants losses. The Giants would not only be eliminated from winning the division, they would also be eliminated from the wild card. And who's pitching tonight and just hit a home run? Tim Hudson, who wears number 17. Pitch in for a strike. 1-2. You can bet one thing. Any Bruce Bochy team will not go quietly. No way. So they're beating Arizona 4-0. Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way. Swung on, hit foul down the right field line, out of play. Andrew Heaney's wife is a very talented athlete in her own right. She's a very good golfer. In fact, many a tournament she's been in, Andrew was her caddy. The 1-2 pitch swung on and fouled back. Heaney 6'2", 190. Just turned 24 in June. Had a baseball scholarship to Oklahoma State. The 1-2 pitch on the way, flipped in there nicely, good sink to it, swung on and missed, and down goes Ellis. So following the home run, that's 3 strikeouts and 6 in a row retired by Heaney, and we're still 1-1. home run on each side. Kershaw struck out Cron in the first inning to give him 252 for this year. That's one more than Drysdale did in 63. But, of course, if you're going to talk about strikeouts, look at the top. Sandy Koufax, 382. Whoa. Meanwhile, the first pitch to Ibar's popped up. Going out to get it is Utley calling, so Vince Lake says it's all yours. So Ibar, first ball swinging, pops it up, and we up one down. Well, how about this? You know, there's a big talk about Matt Harvey and the Mets and whether Harvey should pitch, shouldn't pitch, etc. They're going head-to-head with the Washington Nationals. And, of course, for Washington, I'm sure they're thinking it's do or die. They were 5 games back when the game started. Final score after the Mets were down 7-1. The Mets got off the floor, turned around, beat Washington 8-7. And the Nationals are now 6 games behind the New York Mets. Harvey did pitch for a while, did not pitch well. Off-speed pitch, runs inside. David Freese, followed by Shane Victorino. The 1-1 pitch on the way, off-speed again for a strike, 1-2. Interesting, Cole Calhoun hit that home run in the first inning. Kershaw has allowed only 26 home runs in his career against left-hand batters. 1-2 pitch on the way. Fastball in there. See you later. Whoa, is that thing drilled? So Kershaw comes up with his second strikeout. 2 down. And the batter now will be Shane Victorino. For Kershaw, surprisingly enough, he has allowed 5 home runs against left-hand batters. Victorino appeared as a pincher in last night's game, flied to right field. Talking for the moment with the plate umpire, Gabe Morales. Shane, for years, was a switch hitter, but he has given it up. He is right-handed only now. 2 down, second inning, and a 1-1 tie. Kershaw ready. Left hand delivers, fastball but low, ball 1. He hits 95 on the gun. Each home run on a 3-2 count. Victorino with a 1-ball, no strike count. Kershaw, both feet on the rubber. Turner right at the bag, and the pitch to Shane is low. 2 balls and no strikes. So Turner thinking that Victorino might try to drop one down. He's only about 4 feet from the bag at third. Here comes the 2-0 pitch on the way. Victorino swings, pops it up, left side. Seager going out. The big young shortstop is there to make the catch, and that's the inning. 1-2-3 here in the second. Kershaw is now retired 6 in a row like Heaney, and we're locked in at 1. 16th, Dodgers and Rockies, and you'll receive a bobblehead of two-time Silver Slugger Award winner Fernando Valenzuela. Presented by State Farm. For tickets, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. Andrew Heaney served up a 3-2 fastball, and Ruggiano hit it into the rocks in center. Kershaw served up a 3-2 pitch to Calhoun. He hit it into the bleachers in right field. So as we go to the third, it'll be Alex Guerrero, Chris Heisey, and then Justin Ruggiano. Heaney ready, and the tall left-handed delivers, foul back to the screen, 0-1. Guerrero hitting .228, 11 home runs, 32 runs batted in. Dodgers with a comfortable 8.5 game lead. However, the Angels an uncomfortable 3.5 game trail behind Texas. And of course, for Mike Scioscia, he has to catch Texas or lose a shot at the second wild card. The bullpen certainly will have a lot to do with it. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way. That's taken a little low. Ball 1. 1-2. So Alex Guerrero leading off here in the third in a 1-1 tie. Heaney turns, ready, left-handed delivers, whips a fastball in there that's fouled away. Fastball at 93. Andrew Heaney made his debut with the Marlins last year. He was 0-3. First batter he faced, David Wright of the Mets, and Wright hit one downtown. Pitch in the dirt. 2-2 the count. Chris Iannetta making a good block. Remember the names? Dodgers traded D. Gordon, Dan Harron, Miguel Rojas, and money for Heaney, Hatcher, Hernandez, and Barnes. 2-2 pitch on the way, just off the plate. So the Angels have Heaney, and the Dodgers have Hatcher, Hernandez, and Austin Barnes. That's when Heaney went here, and the Dodgers got Howie Kendrick, a bullet foul outside of third and down the line. So Alex will have to come back, try it again. When you're facing Heaney, the book on him, fastball up to 95. There's also a good slider, curveball, a changeup, and he also brings a bit of a cutter as well. The slider, however, which really developed last year, is the pitch that has propelled him to the top of the left-handed pitching prospects. Heaney, the difference from his changeup and his fastball is about 9.5 miles. So from 81 to 90. Andrew ready, left-handed delivers, low and away, ball 4. Now that's a little bit of a surprise. It's very early, but Heaney does not walk people. He has an average of 1.5 walks per 9 innings. When he first started this year, Heaney's first 6 starts, he went 5-0. So here's the walk to Guerrero, and that'll bring up Chris Heisey. Heisey bouncing back and forth, and now another extra outfielder for the Dodgers. Heisey playing center field tonight and takes low, ball 1. 1-0. We have a 1-1 tie in the third. Justin Ruggiano led off with a home run for the Dodgers. Cole Calhoun led off for a home run with the Angels. 1 ball and no strikes the count to Chris Heisey. Heaney, a high set up around the collarbone. Tall left-hander waits, now delivers, and a towering pop fly is the result. It will be the first baseman, Cron, making the catch for the out. So Heisey, a big league pop fly, 1 away. So the walk snapped a string of 6 in a row, and here comes Justin. And on a 3-2 count, went down to get a pitch around the knees and hit it up into the rocks. So we're 1-1, 1 out, third inning. Guerrero at first. Heaney, the left-hander, just looking at him. And here's Ruggiano. The left-hander's first pitch, fastball inside, ball one, 1-0. Justin Ruggiano. There's a note for you. First time in Dodger history, both teams hit a leadoff home run and on the identical count of 3-2. The next pitch off the plate, that's the changeup at 82. Fastball at 90. Calhoun hit one into the right field pavilion. Ruggiano hit one into the rocks in dead center. Meeting at the mound broken up. Ruggiano in his last game as a defensive sub came up with a big hit last night. Pinch hit, 2-run double. Coming into this game, he has gone 7 for 12. Justin waiting. Now Heaney in no hurry. Fastball fouled away. And the count 2-1 strike. Heaney swinging 2-0. One of the things the Angels do a lot, and that's Mike Scioscia, an aggressive hitter when he played. The Angels swing a lot at a 3-0 pitch. 2-1 the count. We'll see about Guerrero if they're playing hit and run. He is not going. Line drive just foul. Foul by inches. The Ruggiano so near and yet so far. And Alex Guerrero going back to first. I was watching Guerrero, and for a moment I thought he was going to do it. In college, one game, I was coaching third. There was a runner at first and one out. Our batter hit a fly ball. The runner was running to third base, and I'm hollering, "Go back, go back." He went back all right, straight across the mound. Well, I thought, well, that's college. I mean, where else are you going to see a dumb play like that? There's a drive that's not going to go foul. Down in the corner, banging over the fence. It'll be a ground rule double. The Ruggiano now has a home run, a double, and the Dodgers have runners at second and third. One out in the third in a 1-1 tie. Anyway, would you believe a major league game involving the Dodgers and the Dodger player, and it was similar, going from first to third on a fly ball. Dodger coach said go back, and the Dodger player ran to first across the mound. Unbelievable. And for one split second, watching Guerrero, that brought back that memory. Meanwhile, Ruggiano now has a home run, a double. Dodgers have runners at second and third with one out. The infield is up, and the batter is Chase Utley. First pitch to Chase, swung on and fouled back. 0-1. Utley, with a 6-game hitting streak, struck out in the first inning. He also, like other hitters last night, struck out 3 times. Chase has gone full circle. He was originally drafted by the Dodgers. Meanwhile, Jock Peterson and Andre Ethier, 2 outfielders, have the night off. And the pitch to Utley in the dirt. Nice fake by Iannetta, and then immediately ran Guerrero back. Second and third, one out, third inning in a 1-1 tie. Heaney with a record of 6-2, 0-1 against the Dodgers. Kershaw beat him August 1. Andrew ready, and the 1-1 pitch coming up. Utley fouls it away upstairs off to the left, and the count 1-2. One more game here for the Dodgers. Garrett Richards will be on the mound for the Angels. Dodgers going to send Matt Latos against him. Richards is 13-10. Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way. Heaney delivers, check swing on a pitch that hits home plate. bounces all the way back, and the run scored is brought in by Guerrero. For a moment, when that pitch got away, it looked like it might have been a foul ball. It was a check swing by Utley, but he never touched it. So the Dodgers get Guerrero home on the wild pitch, and the Dodgers take a 2-1 lead. Check swing, there's the bounce, the carom off Ianetta's body, and the run scores. And going to third was Ruggiano. 2-2 the count. Heaney set, comes back to Utley, and it is swung on and missed. So Chase strikes out a second time. That's 4 strikeouts for Andrew Heaney, but the Dodgers lead 2-1. And as Utley walks away, Turner walks up. Heaney, by the way, now has 4 wild pitches. Two out, third inning. Dodgers lead 2-1. Justin Turner grounded to short in the first inning. Guerrero all smiles with Jose Peraza as Guerrero got a walk and scored a run. Here comes Heaney's first pitch, and that's fouled away. 0-1 the count. Turner, the last time he was up there, grounded to short, and going back into the dugout, it looked for a moment as if he had hurt himself, but obviously he's okay. Dodgers still have Yasmani Grandal hurting, not quite sure just when he'll be ready. Turner almost gets nicked. 1 ball and 1 strike. Jimmy Rollins has a sore finger, but Don Mattingly said it's nothing long term, maybe a day or two. Ethier's having just a rest tonight. They're going to watch Kershaw and his pitch count for sure. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way, and that's taken off the plate. 2-1 the count. Heaney now has made 50 pitches. That means he is getting close to a very dangerous area for him. Once he gets to 60 pitches, he's in some trouble. Here's the 2-1 pitch to Turner. Left-hander deals away with a 92-mile-an-hour fastball, and the count 3-1. In the low pitching counts, as Gonzalez waits on deck, Heaney's terrific. From 46 to 60, he's terrific. But then 61 to 75, it's another story. Here's the 3-1 pitch coming up. Turner looks at a strike. 3-2. Justin Turner went to school at Cal State Fullerton, was on the championship squad in 2004 that won the College World Series. Heaney straddling the rubber deep in thought. Iannetta settles back into a crouch. 3-2. Coming down the line from third is Ruggiano. Left-hander Heaney delivers. Fastball is low. Ball 4. And Adrian Gonzalez coming up. So Mike Butcher will go out there and see if he can solve the problem for Andrew Heaney. As we mentioned, Heaney averages about 1.5 walks in 9 innings and has already walked 2 and committed a wild pitch in 2 2/3 innings. Heaney doing the talking, Butcher and Iannetta listening. Now Andrew said he's ready. So in a moment he will face Adrian Gonzalez, who struck out first time up with runners at first and third. And of course for Gonzalez, his last 2 at-bats last night he struck out, so he has now struck out 3 straight. For Adrian, he has struck out 93 times. Heaney out of his stretch, looks at the runners at the corners, and the first pitch is low. Ball 1, 1-0. Over in Arizona, the Giants have a comfortable lead, 5-0 against Arizona, behind Tim Hudson, who among other things hit a home run. So did Gregor Blanco. The 1-0 pitch on the way to Adrian. Heaney delivers. It gets the corner at the knees, outside corner. 92-mile-an-hour fastball. And you have 1 ball and 1 strike. When Heaney broke in, he picked up his very first Major League victory against the Yankees. Andrew ready, another look, and the 1-1 pitch on the way. Heaney works it, little fly ball to shallow left field. Coming up for is Victorino to make the catch. So Gonzalez really struggling now. The Dodgers get 1 on a pass, a wild pitch, lead 2. And at the end of 2.5 innings, lead 2-1. For the second time in 3 innings, the Dodgers give Kershaw a lead. 1-0 top of the first, now 2-1, and we go to the bottom of the third. Chris Iannetta, the catcher, right-hand batter, checks in, and the first pitch is low, ball 1. Iannetta, originally signed by the Rockies back in 2004. He went to school at the University of North Carolina. And the 1-0 pitch is a high foul ball back a third and down the line. Drifting over is Seager and makes the catch in foul ground. So Iannetta pops it up, 1 away. Taylor Featherston coming up. 1 out in the third. Featherston, batting 9th last night, had 2 singles. Scored on a home run and a wild pitch. However, with all of that, hitting just 160. Tough for Gio Vitella, the young second baseman. He's having vision problems. First pitch is high, ball 1, 1-0. Double vision, I guess, would be the simplistic way. He was saying, especially on a pop fly where he has to go out into right field, it's a mess. The 1-0 pitch, and that's in for a strike, and the count 1-1. Featherston with Cole Calhoun waiting on deck. Kershaw comes back 1-1. Good fastball. 1-2. Fastball at 91. Clayton has 2 strikeouts. That gives him 253. Off-speed pitch. Bad ball. It was way off the plate. But because it was off speed, it must have looked like a basketball. So Featherston strikes out. That would be strikeout number 3 for Clayton. Heaney has 4. Bad ball, but the swing makes it a good one. So 2 out, 3rd inning, with the Dodgers leading 2-1. And now one of the 5 men left-hand batters to hit a home run against Kershaw. Cole Calhoun. Check swing on a high fastball. Ball one. 1-0. Calhoun is a big man, but not tall. He's only about 5'9", but he does check in at about 200 pounds. From Buckeye, Arizona, and went to Arizona State. First name is Cole, K-O-L-E, and he's going to hit one foul down the left field line out of play. Calhoun signed by the Angels 5 years ago in the 8th round. He spent 2 years in the minor leagues, and he came up in 2012, went back down a couple of times to Salt Lake. 1 ball and 1 strike. He's really given the Dodgers a bad time. 8 for 14 with 3 home runs this year. So Calhoun trying to get something started. 2 out, 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Dodgers 2 runs, 2 hits. Angels 1 run, 1 hit, and the difference a wild pitch. Kershaw deep in thought, trying to win his 13th. Now his 1-2 pitch on the way. Fastball slapped into left field. So 9 for 15. Cole Calhoun. I mean, he just owns the Dodger pitching staff with a 2-out single to left. And the batter now is Mike Trout. Calhoun just went with it. Looked like a slider down and away, and he just whacked it into left field. So here's Trout. Mike Trout hit the ball reasonably hard, lined out to Scott Van Slyke in the first inning. Went through the toughest night of his career with the bat last night, still hitting .294. Kershaw ready, here he comes, and he misses low, ball 1. On deck, Albert Pujols. Pujols is 11 for 26, and he's also walked 7 times against Kershaw. Trout struck out 3 times last night, going 0 for 5. Kershaw delivers. Fastball about belt high on the inside corner for a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. Off the bag is Calhoun with 2 out, representing the tying run. The 1-1 pitch, Kershaw decides to go over. You don't expect Calhoun to try and steal when the Angels down by 1 and Mike Trout at the plate with 2 out. However, he has stolen 4 out of 5. Kershaw looks at him, goes to his stretch. Now turns, goes after Trout with a change, and it's in the dirt. 2 balls and 1 strike to count to Mike Trout. Trout last year spent a lot of time getting deep in the count, and he struck out 184 times. He's more of an aggressive hitter this year, and as he stands at the plate, he has struck out 135. Kershaw ready. Now the 2-1 pitch to Trout, swung on and missed, and the count 2-2. Kershaw against Trout. What a battle. How many years they'll be facing each other. A long and very exciting time. Kershaw throws to first. Calhoun diving back head first. Dodgers have won 12 of the last 14. They've also won 4 straight. Kershaw ready. Trout waiting. 2-2 pitch coming up is in there. Strike 3 called. So Mike Trout, who had struck out 3 times last night, goes down in his second at bat tonight. And at the end of 3, it's still Dodgers 2, Angels 1. the 2015 Jeep Cherokee. With an EPA estimated 31 highway MPG, it's the perfect choice. Visit Jeep.com today. Dodgers take a 2-1 lead into the fourth inning. We have a moment. JT Realmuto of the Marlins had a rather noteworthy night, especially for a catcher. He not only hit an outside the park home run, he also hit an inside the park home run. The last catcher to have such a night was the Expos' Gary Carter way back in 1980. Miami won that game over Milwaukee 6-4. Here's Scott Van Slyke takes a strike. Scotty grounded to short in the second inning. Big night last night. 4 hits and 4 runs batted in. 0-2. So Van Slyke, Seager, and Ellis. Outfield playing Scotty straight away. Just flip that in. Still 0-2. When Seager comes up, see if he and Heaney remind you a little bit of each other. 0-2. Foul away. So if he had a mustache. Okay, you're looking at him. Now we'll look at Heaney. Anyway, 0-2. 1-2. Fastball got him. No doubt about it. So Van Slyke is caught looking, probably caught guessing. That would be 5 strikeouts for Andrew Heaney. Corey Seager grounded out in the second inning. 0-1. Takes that changeup. 1 ball and no strike. All right. What do you think? Take a little crayon and mark your television screen and give Seager a little bit of a mustache. Going after that low breaking ball, off speed. 1-2 the count. Heaney 24, Seager 21. Pretty good fastball as he fouls it back. Another fine crowd, although it is not a sellout. Last night, 44,488. That was the 5th sellout of the year and the largest crowd they've had here at Angel Stadium. It's not up there tonight. Iannetta now going out to talk to Heaney. When Heaney was in college at Oklahoma State, he led all NCAA pitchers in strikeouts at 140. That was 3 years ago. One ball and 2 strikes. They count to Corey Seager. And pull to the hole and base hit to right field. So Corey Seager, very impressive game in and game out. Corey was 1 for 3 last night. Coming into this game, he was hitting .333 with 3 doubles, 3 RBIs, and 4 runs scored. So now he's 1 for 2 with a single to right. And here's A.J. Ellis. Ellis struck out in the second inning. 0 for 1. A.J. carrying the load right now while they still try and figure out what's wrong with Yasmani Grandal's left shoulder. They're giving Grandal some time to, in the words of Don Mattingly, let the shoulder calm down. Sounds like something he said that won't go away, but will get better over time. One thing in his remarks, I think Mattingly sent a message to the entire team, because in talking about Grandal, Don said he wasn't telling us that he was hurting, and you have to be honest with us. And ball one, 1-0. Dodgers 2, home run by Ruggiano. Ruggiano's double sent Guerrero to third, and a wild pitch picked up Guerrero, and that's the difference. 1-0. Foul back. 1-1. Ellis given a chance to play every day because Grandal has been down, and he has really come alive with the bat. Reached base 24 of the last 26 games. Since July 1, A.J. Ellis hitting .328. That's at the knees for a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Heaney has now made 70 pitches. This is the dangerous area for him. 2-2. From 61 to 75, and he's now made 71 pitches. The opposition hitting .364. That's the only real bump in the road. 2-2. Heaney and, what would you call it, the horse latitudes? Remember the horse latitudes? That's when the weather was so hot. They would throw the horses overboard to cool them off. 2-2. Ball 3. Waiting on deck, the designated hitter, Alex Guerrero. So a big pitch, 1 out. Seager at first, held on by Cron. There he goes, and a drive to right. Lining up to make the catch is Calhoun, but his throw back to first, not in time. So Ellis, who goes the other way very well, lines out to Cole Calhoun. And with 2 down, the batter will be Guerrero. Seager checking, saw that it was catchable, and gets back to the bag. So here is the designated hitter. Guerrero walked, scored on a wild pitch, and that's the difference in the game. We're in the 4th. Fastball hit down the line, going foul out of play. Remember the Giants series, all 1-run games. Dodgers won 5-4 in 14 innings. Came back to win 2-1. Came back again and won 2-1. Dodgers winning the tough ones. They're still 1 game under 500 in 1-run decisions. Good at home, struggling on the road. 6-15 on the road. 2 down. Heaney trying to keep a good eye on Seager, and he also wants to talk to Iannetta. When Andrews signed, as Seager cools off for a minute, 91 degrees when the game started. When Heaney signed with the Marlins, he got a bonus of $2.6 million. That's how good they think he will be. 0-1 to Guerrero. Seager, in his early days in the National League, has stolen 3 out of 4. So another ability he has is speed to steal. Because you got a pretty good left-hander looking over at you. Oh, and 1 to count. Fastball lifted to left field, very playable. Victorino has got 4 Gold Gloves, makes the catch, and that's it. No runs, 1 hit, a man left, and at the end of 3.5 innings, 2-1 Dodgers. Fans in attendance Monday at 7:10. That'll be the Dodgers and the Rockies, and those folks will receive an Eric Gagne pin. That would be the 7th in the Cy Young Pin Collector Series presented by 76. So for more information, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Giants are leading the D-backs 5-1 in the 5th. Dodgers are leading the Angels 2-1 in the 4th. Albert Pujols at the plate. Ball 1. Pujols, it's not the plantar fasciitis that bothered him last year, but it is a sore spot between 2 toes on his right foot. That back foot, of course, just as the pitcher would push off the rubber, so a hitter like Pujols gets a lot of his power from his legs, pushing off. We mentioned earlier he has had his times against Clayton Kershaw. 11 for 26 with 7 walks. 0-2. Bounce that thing. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Pujols came into the game hitting only .250, but he is so dangerous. 35 home runs, 82 runs batted in. Off speed pitch in the dirt. 3-2. Well, Kershaw went 3-2 to Cole Calhoun in the first inning, and Calhoun hit a home run. bouncer came up, and again, A.J. Ellis takes a lick behind the plate. Big chopper foul down the line up into the stands. 3-2 to the great Albert Pujols. What a hitter ever since he first came up. Through his first 10 years, Pujols had more home runs than Henry Aaron did. Fly ball to left field. Didn't get much of it. So Pujols fly ball, one away in the fourth. C.J. Cron, the first baseman, coming up. Kershaw has made 48 pitches. Heaney, in his 4 innings, made 75. Kershaw is certainly not pitching the kind of a game he pitched last time out. In his last start, Kershaw had a first pitch strike to 30 of the 33 Giant hitters. Tonight, first pitch strike to 4 of 12. Well, not quite the same. Of course, you don't expect him to come back and be quite the same. 132 pitches, 35 swings and misses. Foul back. High fastball. 1-2 the count. Fastball hit foul. That was a protective swing. Cron had 2 strikes. He wasn't quite sure whether that was going to be a ball or a strike, and he couldn't afford to take it, so he'll just go out there and slap at it. 1-2. Fastball got him. That's strikeout number 5 for Clayton Kershaw. In case you wonder, I always do when the player has initials and he just goes by the initials. It always gets me to be curious. For the record, Cron's name is Christopher John. And that's a strike to Eric Ibar. Always a threat to bunt as Christopher John puts the helmet away. 0-1. Big slow curveball, but that wasn't the Kershaw breaking ball. See him jump in the air, a little frustrated. 1-1. Ibar with 28 infield hits, 8 bunt singles, and very much of a contact hitter. Good breaking ball. Ibar popped up in the second inning. High fastball. Ibar has well over 525 plate appearances. He has struck out 60 times. Curveball pulled foul. So Eric comes back, try it again. He's 5'10", about 180, 31 years old, from the Dominican. The leader in bunts, active leader, Rafael Furcal. Ibar had 7 bunt singles last year and 8 this year. 2-2. Fastball, comeback. Close play at first, and the Dodgers just do get Ibar. So Kershaw fights that thing and gets his man. Down go the Angels, and at the end of 4, it remains Dodgers 2, Angels 1. bullpen for the day as he throws out the first pitch. Plus, you'll go behind the scenes of the team's sweep of their National League West rivals, the Giants. So don't miss Backstage Dodgers. That'll be Thursday at 7 on Sportsnet LA. Chris Heisey going up against Andrew Heaney, then Justin Ruggiano and Chase Utley. 2-1 favor of the Dodgers. 2 runs, 3 hits. The Angels 1 run, 2 hits. Fastball, ball 1. Heisey popped up to C.J. Cron in the 3rd inning. That's a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. One and 2. Interesting. I was just thinking about C.J. Cron, and in fact, his name is Christopher John. And you wonder, first of all, what happened in his young life where he lost his first name? Why is it he is called by his initials? And then you start thinking of people as they grow up. Why are some men James? And then others are Jim or Jimmy. But some are James. Or no Johnny, just John. That's pop foul out of play. 2-2. A.J. Ellis. J.P. Howell. But why? What happened to their first names? That's C.J. Wilson. 2-2. And fouled out of play. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 2 hits for the Angels. Yeah, there's J.P. down there, James Paul. 2-2. And strike 3 on the corner. Down goes Heisey. 6 strikeouts now for Andrew Heaney. And with 1 out, Justin Ruggiano. Ruggiano led off the game, 3 balls and 2 strikes, and voila. He got a fastball, might have been a little below the knees, and hit it up into the rocks. Then next time up, Ruggiano doubled. That sent Guerrero to third, and Guerrero scored on a wild pitch. And he hits a hopper to short. Ibar makes the play. Dodgers getting a pretty good boost in September from Justin Ruggiano. Just before he hit that 1 hopper, he was 5 for 8 with 2 doubles and 2 home runs. And then there's Corey Seager, 7 for 20 with 3 doubles and hitting .350. So a veteran and a youngster giving the Dodgers an extra push. And with 2 down, here's Chase Utley, who has struck out twice against Heaney. Oh and 1. When the Angels come up in the bottom of the 5th, they'll start off with Freese, Victorino, and Iannetta. Line drive into right center. Let's see if Utley goes for 2 or 1. He will stop at first. So a 2-out line drive single for Chase. And the batter will be Justin Turner. Justin Turner has grounded to short and walked. 0 for 1. Two-out 5th inning, 2-1, favor the Dodgers. Trying to make it 5 in a row. Trying to beat the Angels 8 in a row. And trying to make it 13 out of 15. Utley right at the bag, held on by Cron. Oh, and 1. Justin Turner, you know the big rhubarb about Matt Harvey, but he's not going to pitch more than 180 innings. He's already pitched 160 some odd. He started tonight and was kind of pushed around by the Nationals. I think he went 4 or 5 innings. Turner was quite outspoken, saying, hey, I know Harvey. He will pitch for the Mets. As we understand it, Harvey's representative, Scott Boras, and apparently the doctor are talking about 180 innings and no more. Harvey went 5 1/3 innings and gave up 7 earned runs. Looked like the Mets were going to lose. They were down 7-1. And don't you know, they turned it around and beat Washington 8-7. Harvey made 74 pitches, and we'll find out more when that game sends its story around the country. High fly ball down the line. Here comes Calhoun. So for the Dodgers, no runs. Utley singled, they leave him. And at the end of 4 1/2 innings, 2-1 Dodgers. Your Southern California Toyota dealers. Now at Toyota's annual clearance event, get amazing deals on every new Toyota. 2-1 Dodgers, bottom of the 5th inning. It'll be David Freese, Shane Victorino, and Chris Iannetta. Freese struck out in the 2nd inning. High fastball, ball 1. Now you're looking at Cole Calhoun. First of all, he's 2 for 2. The rest of the team is 0 for 12. And that's going to be a hopper through. So Freese leads off with a base hit. Tying runs aboard, and the batter will be Shane Victorino. Now, we were talking a moment ago about Cole Calhoun. As a left-handed batter, Calhoun is 2 for 2. The only left-hand batter to have ever had a 3-hit game against Kershaw. Last year in June, the nemesis, oh sure, the St. Louis Cardinals, Matt Carpenter. So we'll see. Calhoun has half a game left, whether he can come up with a 3rd hit against Kershaw. Victorino popped up in the 2nd inning. He bunts, but takes ball 1. There's one other honor that Cole Calhoun has. He can tell his grandkids, oh yeah, Granky and Kershaw, yeah, I had a home run against each of them back in 2015. That's a strike. You might be surprised to know that standing out in left field, Justin Ruggiano for the Dodgers. 3 years ago, Ruggiano had a home run against Greinke and a home run against Kershaw. That's when he was playing for Miami. 1 ball and 1 strike. The fellas who have done it against the 2 pitchers in 1 year, Joey Votto, Alex Rios, Justin Ruggiano, Jay Bruce, Carlos Gomez, and Cole Calhoun. Others have done it in different years. Carlos Gonzalez, Andrew McCutchen, Giancarlo Stanton, Juan Uribe, Chase Utley, and don't forget Madison Bumgarner. 2-1 the count to Victorino. Foul ball. 2-2. Here are those fellas who have the honor of hitting home runs in the same season against Kershaw and Greinke. Two balls, 2 strikes to Shane Victorino. Big overhand breaking ball, no swing. 3-2. Shane Victorino in high school was a track star. His speed eventually got him to the big leagues. From Maui, lives over in Wailuku. 3-2. We'll watch the runner freeze, not going. Big bouncer. Turner has it to second, to first, and it's a wide throw. Safely aboard is Victorino. So Utley unable to make the play. Utley does something. I'm not sure if he did it. We'd have to get the cameras back. Watch Utley's foot. He doesn't step on the bag. He puts his foot parallel to the side of the bag. Got into a big mess the other day in San Diego, but it's so tough to see. See if we can see it now. See, his foot was parallel to the far side of the bag. Little ground ball. Seager shovels, and they get the DP this time. So down go the Angels at the end of 5. 2-1 Dodgers. League pennant and went on to win the World Series. They clinched it in Milwaukee. And I must tell you, I've seen a lot of Dodger celebrations over the years, but that was the one memorable. I understand the restaurant where we had dinner is still standing in Milwaukee. The name of the restaurant was Mader's. One of the things I remember, Russ Meyer of the Dodgers going around and cutting off everybody's tie. Yes, they wore ties in those days, right at the knot. Let's go back to this one. Foul ball outside of first. 0-1. That Dodger team in 55 clinched the pennant. They were 13.5 games in front and went on to beat the Yankees in the World Series. Why do I remember? Well, heck, it was only 60 years ago. 1-1 to Adrian. Struck out, fly to left, 0 for 2. 1-1. 2-1 to count. Adrian's average now, he's been struggling. Average at 276. Ball 3. When a veteran player, someone with so much talent, goes into a slump, it's in September, and the first thing you do is look up Adrian's age. I mean, that's a normal reaction. But he's only 33, draws the walk, and the batter will be Van Slyke. Cam Bedrosian, we saw the hard-throwing right-hander in relief last night. Come to think of it, we saw almost everybody last night. So Bedrosian tuning up. Heaney has now made 93 pitches. Van Slyke grounded out, struck out. And a one-hopper into left field. So the Dodgers have something brewing now. A walk to Gonzalez, base hit to Van Slyke, and Seager coming up. Socha almost ready to make a move. He sent Butcher out to the mound, but he also looks anxiously down towards the Angel bullpen. Mike's at the far end of the dugout. Meanwhile, Butcher talking. 2 on, nobody out. Seager, Ellis, and Guerrero, and the Dodgers leading 2-1. For Andrew Heaney, we were talking about the fact that from 61 to 75, that's when he had a lot of trouble. Now he's up to 94 pitches. Oh, and 1. From 76 to 90, the opposition was hitting only 167. So we really don't have any record as to how Heaney goes after 90 pitches. Well, we'll find out tonight. Seager grounded to second, single to right. And line drive down the right field line, in there. Ground rule double. That will score 1. Van Slyke will stop at third. Scoring is Gonzalez, and the Dodgers lead 3-1. And there's Seager again, coming up with a big play. Well, he's 2 for 3 now, and that'll do it. Socha had the feeling, that sinking feeling, that his pitcher was losing it. He kept looking to Cam Bedrosian, but I'm sure Mike thought, okay, I have a young left-hand hitter against my young left-hand pitcher, but Seager is the winner. So the Dodgers not only lead 3-1, They have a runner in scoring position at third and another at second, and we'll be back.
In attendance will receive a Vince Scully bobblehead presented by Mercedes-Benz Dealers of Southern California. For tickets, go to Dodgers.com/promotions.
Cam Bedrosian, the son of Steve Bedrosian, who had a big major league career. In fact, his dad was a Cy Young winner. So Cam chip off the old block, coming in now trying to restore order. Heaney made 96 pitches and apparently ran out of gas here in the 6th inning. Goes 5, gives up at least 3, and the runners at second and third, his responsibility. The infield comes up, and here's A.J. Ellis, struck out and lined to right. Fastball, half swing, top of the third, the throw to first in time. Well, that got you job done. It brings in Van Slyke and gives the Dodgers a 4-1 lead. Can we take another look at that at bat for A.J. Ellis? He made the contact, got his man in. Take a look. I'm not sure what you call that, a half swing, half a bunt, whatever it is. He gets himself a run batted in. Carl Crawford now is coming out on deck. So Ellis rounds out 5-3. Van Slyke comes home. Taking third is Seager. 2 runs in the inning charged to Heaney. And the Dodgers now lead 4-1. And here is Crawford. Wesley Wright, whom we saw last night, is down in the bullpen. So a brief performance by Cam Bedrosian. We'll be right back. coming in now. We saw Wesley last night. Because remember, last night we saw 8 relievers. Alvarez, Salas, Ramos, Gott, Wright, Smith, Morin, and Bedrosian. So Wesley Wright will be facing the left-handed designated hitter, Carl Crawford, batting for the right-handed designated hitter, Alex Guerrero. Meanwhile, Cam Bedrosian warmed up for several minutes in the bullpen, came into the game, made 1 pitch, got an out, gave up a run, and then headed for the dressing room. Crawford pretty consistent, hitting in the 260s, whether left-handed or right. Seager is at third, 1 out, infield up. High chopper fielded at first. The throw to the plate, the run scores, and it looks like the ball got away in the attempt to tag, and down to second base goes Crawford. And the Dodgers lead 5-1. So C.J. Cron trying to handle the cutoff throw to get it home, and it gets away from Iannetta. He can take a look. High bouncer. Here comes C.J. Kind of sidearms it, and it sailed, and that allowed the run to get in. Iannetta has to reach up. There's that sidearm pitch. Iannetta has it come out of the glove while trying to make a tag. So it was a tough throw, side-arming and sailing to Iannetta. It'll be a fielder's choice, an error charge to Iannetta, and a run batted in for Crawford. So the Dodgers have scored 3 times, now lead 5-1. And there goes Crawford to third. The pitch, a strike, the throw, he's in there. So Carl Crawford just got into the game. He has a fielder's choice for a run batted in. Goes to second on an error and promptly steals third. Dodgers 5, trying to get at least another. Infield is up again. Oh, and 1. 1 ball and 1 strike. Five runs, 6 hits. All of the runs charged to Heaney. One and 1. Fastball hit in the air, right center. Plenty deep to get Crawford home. The catch by Calhoun. The long throw way offline. And the Dodgers lead 6-1. So Heisey picks up his man. And Ruggiano will be coming in. Boy, you talk about a brief appearance. Carl Crawford, fielder's choice, run batted in. Reaches second, steals third, comes home on a sac fly to right. So for Andrew Heaney, a rough night. He is charged with 5 runs. Crawford scored from third. No swing, they were checking to see. Crawford, huffing and puffing, put on a show. Ruggiano homered, doubled, and grounded to short. 6 runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers. Justin way out in front. To repeat, he's one of the few who can talk about hitting a home run in the same season against Greinke and Kershaw. Justin did it 2012 when he was with Miami. 2-1. So Kershaw is given a good lead. One thing for sure, the Dodgers are going to be very careful. Remember, Greinke went 6. It could very well be if he pitches the bottom of the 6th, he'll come out of the game. 2-2 to Justin Ruggiano. Greinke last night went 6 innings, allowed 3 runs. Kershaw's gone 5 and allowed 1. Dodger bullpen last night. They used Avilan, Nicasio, Howell, Johnson, Hatcher, and Jansen. Though we'll see just how long they let Kershaw pitch. It'll be up to the skipper. 3-2. Though Ruggiano strikes out, but for the Dodgers, a very nice inning. 7 men come to the plate, 4 come home. And we're heading for the bottom of the 6th. 6-1 Dodgers. Here, not tired of the letter A. They will go home tonight. They'll have a good portion of Thursday at home. Then Thursday early evening, they'll fly over to Arizona, play 3. Then the Dodgers come home and hope to continue to playing top ball. They are on their way to winning 13 of 15. Kershaw has to pitch at least 1 more inning. Remember, if Clayton gets through this 6th inning, he will then have pitched 200 innings, 5 of the last 6 years. First pitch, fly ball to center and deep, but the catch out there by Heisey. So Featherston doesn't hang around, and we have 1 out. Cole Calhoun homered on a 3-2 pitch in the first inning and single to left in the 3rd. He has the only 2 hits for the Angels. Two hits for Calhoun and a leadoff single for David Freese, and that's been it. And a strike. Jose Alvarez begins to warm up for the Angels. There's no activity in the Dodger bullpen, though we'll see just how far Kershaw will go. Ground foul. Kershaw tonight has struck out 5. That gives him 256. We mentioned earlier he passed Don Drysdale in 1963. Big D had 251. But again, to repeat, if you're talking about strikeouts, Sandy Koufax, 382 strikeouts back in 1965. And the next year, Sandy came back with 317. And the next year, he came back with 306. That was a different game. Starters went every 4 days. Starters today every 5. Ball 1. Kershaw with 256. He would need 3 to tie Koufax, who had 269. Bill Calhoun goes down. And here's Mike Trout. Lined out to right and struck out. You know, one thing about Mike Trout, he is not going to talk about it. But remember when he hurt his wrist? He made that diving try of a fly ball in right center. That's inside. 2-0. Well, it could very well be that wrist is still bothering him. 6-1 Dodgers, thanks to a 4-run top of the 6th. 3-0. Well, they might let Trout swing 3-0. Why not? High strike. And ball 4. And of course, Trout, who is looking for a base hit, gets the walk. So Trout so far 0 for 7 in the 2 games. With 2 down, gets the walk. And here's Albert Pujols. For Kershaw, that's his first walk. But here's a fellow who's walked 7 times against him. And you can see the walks allowed at the minimum after the All-Star break. And a strike on 1. And 2. In his last 11 starts, and including tonight, Kershaw has 117 strikeouts and 10 walks. He's had double-digit strikeouts each of his last 3 starts, including that 15 that he turned in against the Giants. And 2. The magic number was 17. Giants are winning, but if the Dodgers win, they reduce the number to 16. Albert hitting .249. So Pujols strikes out. That's 7 strikeouts. And for Kershaw, he has now pitched 200 innings in 5 of the last 6 years. And at the end of 6, 6-1 Dodgers. Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Choose Nissan.com. As the Dodgers lead 6-1, and they have that comfortable 8.5 game lead, so they can reduce the number to 16 on their own. Meanwhile, for the Angels, it's a bad night. Texas is beating Seattle 7-1 in the 7th inning. So if Texas wins and Angels lose, Trout and company would suddenly be 4.5 games behind Texas, trying desperately for Mike Scioscia to get that second wild card spot, and it certainly doesn't look good right now. Meanwhile, Jose Alvarez from Barcelona in Venezuela facing Utley, who has struck out twice, singled, chased 1 for 3. 6 runs, 6 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. 1 run, 3 hits, and 1 error for the Angels. No activity in the Dodger bullpen. Kershaw with a towel wrapped around his arm in the Dodger dugout. So it looks like Clayton is going to go at least another inning as he talks to A.J. Ellis. Little roller to the right side. Featherston. 1 away in the 7th inning. Jose Alvarez, 5'11", 180, 26 years old, originally signed as a free agent by the Red Sox. Last night he came into the game in the 5th inning and made 4 pitches and got an out. Just 2 years ago, he was the Detroit Tigers minor league pitcher of the year. Justin Turner grounded to short, walk, fly to right. For Kershaw, in his 6 innings, he's made 82 pitches. The Giants leading the D-backs in the bottom of the 8th inning, 5-2. Ground ball to third, backhanded there by Freese. High throw, but you got to beat first baseman. 2 down. And the batter, Adrian Gonzalez, who has struck out, fly to left, walked, and scored a run. So Adrian 0 for 2 tonight. Went 0 for 4 last night. Mike Trout 0 for 7. Pujols 0 for 3 tonight. He had a good night last night, 3 hits. Adrian batting .276. So it's been Heaney, Bedrosian, Wright, and now Alvarez. Line drive down the right field line, in there. Over to get the ball is Calhoun. Adrian will hold on with a long single. So Adrian really all over that one. A bullet into right field. For the Dodgers, in looking over their efforts tonight, they have only gone out in order once. That was way back in the 2nd inning. Last night, the Dodgers went out in order in the 9th inning, probably out of exhaustion. 7 runs, 16 hits last night. 6 runs, 7 hits tonight. Van Slyke grounded to short, struck out, single to left. Popped up. It looks like Featherston. So that'll do it. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. And Kershaw's going back to work. Dodgers 6, Angels 1. of the Dodgers. Cron, Ibar, and Freeze in that order. And a strike, 0-1. So Kershaw with 6 strikeouts, that gives him 257. Only Dazzy Vance stands between Kershaw and Koufax's top 4 strikeout seasons. Good fastball down. Freeze grounded out, fly to left, and waiting now. 1 ball and 2 strikes. That's going to be Chopper behind the bag. Utley, hurry throw. Nice save by Adrian Gonzalez. So Kershaw, when he struck out Pujols, that was his 7th strikeout. So we have 1 down. And here is Ibar, popped up, hit back to the box. Ibar certainly one fella who doesn't figure to strike out. And in retrospect, that was a very nice play. Utley up the middle, and a good stretch by Gonzalez. Ground ball. Seager boots it, picks it up. Welcome to the club, Corey. So everything is a first for him. Now he has an error. Ibar aboard with 1 out, and Freeze coming up. Routine ground ball. He stuck his finger in it right there. Ouch. See him swing that hand. Yeah, that hurts. It also hurts to commit an error. So here's Freeze, struck out, singled, 1-4-2. Foul ball. So again, with the 7 strikeouts tonight, Kershaw has 258. Dazzy Vance had 262. Ibar has stolen 11 bases. Freeze hitting 246 on a 1-1 count. Taking a look down to Gary DiSarcina. See if there might be a play in the works. Ibar held on by Gonzalez. 1 out. That runs the count to 2-1. There's Gary, who meant so much to the Angels when he played here. Over at first, Alfredo Griffin, who meant so much to the Dodgers. 2-1. Fastball. 2-2 to Freeze. Paid attendance 41,086. Fastball up the middle. Base hit to center. So the Angels, for the first time, you have a rally. Only because of the error. So 2 on, 1 out, and Shane Victorino coming up. Victorino popped up, hit into a force play. 0 for 2. No one throwing yet in the Dodger bullpen. Mattingly letting Kershaw pitch the 7th. Fastball for a strike. Well, he's still throwing hard. Wow. That was 94. Victorino has 1 home run, 6 RBIs, hitting .224, 2 on, 1 out, 7th inning, 6-1 Dodgers. Big overhand breaking ball, but he missed with it. Dodgers moving around a little bit in the bullpen, but no throwing. Kershaw ready to make his 96th pitch. They're looking, but that's all. 1-1. Fastball lifted to right field. Ibar's going to tag. Van Slyke will get it in there, cut off by Seager. Two on, 2 out. The inning should be over except for the error. And the batter now, Chris Iannetta. It's over Clayton Kershaw after 132 pitches against the Giants. He has made 96 pitches right now. You can bet Mattingly is watching his every move. Iannetta has fouled out and hit into a double play. Fastball hit to the hole. Seager can't come up with it, and the bases are loaded. Seager trying to backhand the ball in the hole, couldn't do it. Extra work for Kershaw. We'll see if they're going to rule that a base hit or an error. He's out on the grass. They now have 2 errors up there, so give Seager 2 errors tonight. That's welcome to the rough side. Chris Grimm down in the bullpen. That's a strike. And it's time for Nicasio to get up. Two errors, 2 out, bases loaded. Featherston hitting 165, and whoops, Kershaw balked. What a nightmare inning. So everybody moves up 90 feet. Tim Wallach talking and sending Mattingly out. Doesn't seem to be much of an argument. Kershaw on the mound, on the rubber, which is more important. I wonder when he turned his head. Yep, he knew he did wrong. So the balk, what an inning. 2 errors and a balk for a run. The Dodger lead is now 6-2. Runners at second and third. Featherston hitting 165. He's on the rubber, looks his head, and then backed off, but he was still on the rubber while he turned his body. One ball and 2 strikes. Featherston struck out, fly to center. Freeze down the line from third. Iannetta at second. Seager having committed 2 errors in the inning. And the 1-2 pitch, curved ball missed. Slow curveball, 2-2. Kershaw has struck out 7. Fastball low. So now he's made 102 pitches. 20 pitches here in the inning. That's about ready to force Mattingly's hand. 3-2. Fastball low. So that's going to bring up Cole Calhoun. So Kershaw has struck out 7. He has walked 2. Rick Honeycutt going out to talk to Clayton. The first error by Seager, that was a routine ground ball. The second error, he had to go to his right in the hole and couldn't come up with it. First error set the tone. Victorino's fly ball to right field should have been the third out. That's the big error. He just stuck a finger in that. The other error was almost a base hit. He's on the grass to backhand and he couldn't do it. Though all part of the game, Kershaw understands that. And here's Calhoun. Homered, singled, and struck out. With the bases loaded, he represents the tying run. Fouled away. Calhoun wearing out the Dodgers. No balls and 1 strike. And that's going to go foul. So Kershaw now has him on the ropes. No balls and 2 strikes. Trying to put him away. They're Freeze at third. Iannetta at second. Featherston at first. Zach Greinke behind Mattingly, staring out, watching what's going on. Calhoun has struck out 135 times going into this game. Check swing, yes. Calhoun strikes out a second time. The Dodgers escape on a check swing on a pitch way out of the strike zone. The third base umpire, Trip Gibson, who was the plate umpire last night, rings him up. And at the end of 7, it's 6-2 Dodgers. Mike Scioscia coming out of the dugout. I would assume he is arguing over the fact the called strike to Calhoun, who tried to hold up his swing. Mike, of course, thoroughly frustrated. Remember when the series started, the Angels were 2.5 back of Texas, and they had won 4 out of 5. He had his good man up there, Calhoun, with the bases loaded, and on a check swing, Calhoun was called out. Kershaw was out of the jam. Corey Seager got out from under the 2 errors. So the Dodgers leading 6-2. Giants are winning against the D-backs 6-2. But for the Angels, bad news. Texas is winning easily. That was a tough call with the bases loaded, 2 strikes on a guy who strikes out a lot. It was also 8 strikeouts. Take another look, trying to control the bat. It really looked like perhaps he did. DiSarcina might have been in the way a little bit. However, there was no argument from Calhoun. And we're now in the 8th inning. So here is Seager. Breaking ball. Misses. 1 ball and no strikes. So it's been Heaney, followed by Bedrosian, Wright, Alvarez, and Rasmus. Corey's 2 for 3, single and a double. 1-1. One ball, 1 strike. 2-1. Kershaw in that wild 7th inning was forced to make 24 pitches. So he's now made 106. We look now and we don't see Clayton wrapped. Usually when he stays in the game, he wraps that valuable left arm with a towel. And ball 3. Seager, Ellis, then Crawford. Golf foul. Might have been ball 4. Still 3-2 to Corey. So he's done just about everything now. I mean, he had his first hit. Then he had a home run. He's had a double. He has scored a run. He has stolen a base. And now he has committed his first 2 errors. 3-2. And that's too high for ball 4. You know, the most popular way to follow the postseason is with MLB.com at bat. That's the #1 app for live baseball. So enjoy live look-ins, highlights, replay reviews, scores, StatsCast, you name it. Live radio broadcasts and more. So get MLB.com at bat now. I don't see Mike Scioscia, so I assume he vented his spleen and pays the price. Ellis struck out, lined out, grounded out. Dodgers 6 runs, 7 hits, 2 errors. They've left 5. The Angels 2 runs, 4 hits, 1 error. They've left 5. Just off the plate. AJ checking with Renicky. Seager runs well. He certainly does not know the pitches. Crawford does, and he's on deck. And a fly ball. Moving over is the center fielder Trout. Back to first base goes Seager, and we have 1 out in the 8th inning. Meanwhile, in the Dodger bullpen, Nicasio is up a second time. So, from the looks of it, after 106 pitches, it looks like Clayton Kershaw would be done for the night. Again, the telltale sign, the left arm is not wrapped. Final score, Giants beat the D-backs 6-2. Tim Hudson saved the day with that magic number 17. Hudson wore 17 and got a win. However, because of Kershaw, if the Dodgers win this game, the magic number will be reduced to 16. Sweet 16. There is numbers: 7 innings, 4 hits, 8 strikeouts. One ball and no strikes to Crawford. Fouled away. Crawford was busy, came in as a pinch hitter, hit a high bouncer to Cron, who threw to the plate. It got away. Crawford went all the way and eventually stole third. Came home on a fly ball by Heisey. Carl hadn't played much, but he was busily involved. Well, they're keeping an eye on Seager. 1 out in the 8th, 6-2 Dodgers. Dodgers trying to win 13 out of 15. Talk about complete about face from that 5-game losing streak. There goes the runner. Fly ball to right. Calhoun for the catch. Seager back to first. So 2 down. Justin Ruggiano is due up. Jock Peterson is going to come up now and bat for Heisey. Peterson had a 3-hit game last night for the first time since early July. Then he'll stay in the game in center field. Last night, Jock struck out his first at bat. Then he singled a left, singled a right, and doubled a left, and for good measure, then walked. So he had a big night. 4 times in his career, he's had a 3-hit game. Up there now against Corey Rasmus. Corey's a Georgia boy, at least that's where he was born. He lives in Alabama now. He was a first-round pick by the Braves, but it didn't work out. Slow and high, ball 1. Corey Rasmus, I guess, born to be an Angel. His dad was a high school coach who was a 10th-round pick of the Angels way back in 1986. Breaking ball strike. By the way, the Giants, in winning, also had a home run from second baseman Joe Panik. Giants just stopped dead when they lost Hunter Pence and Joe Panik. Hector Sanchez, the backup catcher, went on the DL. 2-1. Albert Pujols, eyes riveted on the young hitter. And ball 3. So Corey Rasmus is the 5th pitcher used tonight after the Angels used 9 pitchers last night. Surprising, but Rasmus didn't pitch last night. 3-1. Runner goes, foul ball. Corey Rasmus, 28 years old, 6'1", 220. His brother Colby was a first-round pick by the Cardinals. Three and 2 time. Corey Rasmus was a catcher on the Phoenix City Little League team that got to the World Series. 3-2, runner goes, and down goes Peterson. Slow breaking ball. No runs, no hits, a walk and a man left. At the end of 7.5, Dodgers lead 6-2. Clayton Kershaw led the way. Jock Peterson now finishing up in center field for Chris Heisey. And for the Dodgers, they bring in Juan Nicasio. So for Kershaw, a brilliant 7 innings. The only bad time he had at all was not his doing. That was in the 7th inning. 2 errors by Corey Seager, and the rare balk jumped up to bite Clayton. But here we are in the bottom of the 8th. It'll be Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, C.J. Cron, and Juan Nicasio. Nicasio pitched briefly last night, made 8 pitches, and we're ready to go. Trout looking for his first hit in the 2 games. And boy, that one really hit A.J. Ellis. Timeout. Whoa. Take a look at this one. Off the mask. Staggers A.J. Gee, using his right foot to make sure he doesn't go down. Trout saying something. Ellis smiles. Ellis said something. Trout laughed. Ryu looked like he was shaking his head as if he had the concussion. 1 ball and 1 strike. Trout lined out to right, struck out, and walked. He is 0 for 7 in the series. In a hole now, 1-2. Pujols is 0 for 3 as he waits on deck. C.J. Cron 0 for 3. One and two. Clayton Kershaw made 106 pitches tonight on the heels of 132. Fastball just missed. 2-2. Clayton Kershaw's last 19 starts. You know what his earned run average is? 1.2. 1.2. Ball 3. In those 19 starts, Clayton would go 11-3 should he pick up the victory tonight. Dodgers lead 6-2. We're in the 8th. Fastball is low. The crowd has walked twice. Albert Pujols coming up. Take a look. Low all the way. Pujols grounded to second, flied to left, and struck out. 0 for 3. Little talk coming, I think, from the Dodger bench on that last pitch. Trout has 10 stolen bases. There's a little paper airplane landed on the grass. Turner picks it up, hands it to the paper airplane boy. Have a lot of specialists in baseball. Pujols, Cron, and Ibar with a runner at first and nobody out. Trout has stolen 10, but he's also been caught 7 times. Fastball, chopper foul. 0-1 to Albert Pujols. Pujols, being the power hitter that he is the #1 hitter in the American League on a 3-0 count. He has a no-ball 1-strike count now. 11 of his RBIs have been on an 0-2 count. "28 of Albert's home runs this year have been against right-hand pitching. 18 of those home runs here. 0-1. That missed inside. 1 ball and 1 strike. 11 of Albert's home runs have been hit when the Angels were behind. 13 when they're ahead. One ball and 1 strike. One and 2. Pujols, as we mentioned, has that bad foot. It's like a bruise in between toes, but very painful. So painful, and he takes a great deal of pride on his defensive work. But as he said, I can't play defense. I can't move around. He's still a power to contend with. 1 and 2 the count. Chopper to third. Nice pick by Turner. They get 1. They will get 2. With all that was going on, Pujols just couldn't get down the line. Well, that was a picture double play because it wasn't easy at all. Trout bearing down on Utley. There's the ground ball. There's the pick by Turner. Now there's Utley, and here comes Trout. And Chase still able to have the time since Pujols can't run, and they come up with the double play. The old time they used to call that around the horn. 5-4-3. So 2 down. C.J. Cron, fastball for ball 1. One ball and no strikes to C.J. Struck out twice, grounded out, all 3 at-bats against Clayton Kershaw. 2-0 the count. Dodgers turned in a double play in the 5th inning. They turn another one here in the 8th. Cron batting .271. Check swing. 3-0. Ibar on deck. Luis Avilan, the left-hander, gets up in the Dodger bullpen. That's a strike. 3-1. Giants won. Dodgers trying to reduce the magic number by themselves. Chop it down to 16. A hopper. Seager, nice pick. And that's out. No runs, no hits, nobody left. Nice turn by Turner on the ground ball. Take another look. And then Utley getting out of the way of the big fish. And at the end of 8, 6-2 Dodgers. Jack in the Box. For a limited time, try the new Portobello Mushroom Buttery Jack with melted garlic herb butter. And by Flex Alert. This summer, the power is in your hands. FlexAlert.org. Dodgers take a 6-2 lead into the 9th inning. It'll be Ruggiano, followed by Utley, and then Turner. Ruggiano led off the game on a 3-2 count and hit a home run. This time a high pop fly. Cron, the first baseman. One pitch, one away, top of the 9th. Chase Utley coming up. Utley struck out twice, single to center, grounded to second, 1 for 4. Made a good play to turn that double play and get out of the way of Mike Trout. Chase 7 home runs, 34 runs batted in. Right. In the Dodger bullpen, Pedro Baez getting ready. No balls, 1 strike. 1 out, 9th inning. 6-2 Dodgers. Trying to beat the Angels for the 8th straight time. 5 straight this year, 3 left over from last year. You know, earlier we were talking about the Washington Nationals playing the New York Mets. The Nationals were winning 7-1, and the Mets pulled the game out 8-7. Well, there's another 7-1 lead in jeopardy. Texas led Seattle 7-1. Now it's 8-6 in the bottom of the 8th. That's a very important game for the Angels. Angels losing last night, trailing Texas by 3.5 for the second wild card. So if they go down and Texas hangs on, The Angels would be 4.5 back and running out of time. This would be game number 138, so there'd be 24 games left. There's a hopper backhanded by Featherston and gets him. So Utley losing a base hit. Nice play by Taylor. And we have 2 down, 9th inning. Justin Turner coming up. It's kind of a repeat of the way Turner handled the ground ball to get the double play on the ball hit by Pujols. Justin grounded to short, walk, fly to right, grounded to third, 0 for 3. Fastball strike. It's been Heaney, Bedrosian, Wright, Alvarez, and Rasmus. Kershaw, Nicasio, and it looks like Baez to pitch the 9th. One and one. Look out. So Turner hit by the pitch. Turner has been pitched and hit 12 times. Most on the Dodger staff. Locked in, had to take it. Lifting that leg, he has nowhere to go. So here's Adrian Gonzalez, struck out, fly to left, walked, scored a run, and single to right. And ball 1. Tomorrow night, Garrett Richards on the mound, and the Dodgers will counter with Matt Latos. 1-0. Little low, ball 2. Six runs, 7 hits for the Dodgers, 2 runs, 4 hits for the Angels. There goes the runner, Turner. The throw down, he is in there. Ibar having a little fun with him. Turner has now stolen 4 out of 5. Ibar will take the throw. Now he just keeps the tag on, tags him again. Now they've decided they will walk Gonzalez. And they'll try the right-hand hitting Scott Van Slyke. Mike Butcher running the club in the absence of Mike Scioscia. 2 on, 2 out. And let's see who's going to come up. Van Slyke is not. It's Andre Ethier. So the Dodgers just as soon pick up another run or 2 if they can, to take into the bottom of the 9th. Van Slyke tonight was 1 for 4. And now here's Andre Ethier. Ethier last night started the game, struck out, fly to left, and then Ruggiano batted for him and doubled. Well, Butcher talking to Rasmus as to how they want to pitch Andre. Ethier hitting .297. He has 13 home runs, 43 runs batted in. So 2 on a hit batter and a walk. Remember, that was a nice play by Featherston to take a base hit away from Utley. If that had gone through, then what followed, the Dodgers would certainly be threatening. Here's ball 1. On deck, Corey Seager, who is 2 for 3. He's got a single, a double, and a walk. One ball and no strikes. One and one. Kershaw went 7. He's in line for the win. Heaney went 5+. He's in line for the loss. One ball and one strike. Slow curveball fouled away. 1-2. Dodgers trying to make it 5 in a row, 8 in a row against the Angels. That's going back to the last 3 meetings last year. Five pitchers used by the Angels after using 9 last night. For Mattingly, Kershaw took care of 7. Nicasio pitched the 8th, and Baez will be pitching the 9th. Lunged at a bad ball, and Andre strikes out. No runs, no hits, 2 left. Turner hit by a pitch. Bottom of the 9th coming up, 6-2 Dodgers. Tweet your photo for a chance to be shown in an upcoming broadcast. Brought to you by T-Mobile. Andre Ethier takes over in the bottom of the 9th inning. Dodgers leading 6-2, and Pedro Baez will take over on the mound. For the Angels, their last at-bat would feature Eric Ibar, David Freese, and then Shane Victorino, unless they go to the bench. Baez, who throws very hard in the high 90s. So Kershaw wins 7. Nicasio goes 1. And Pedro facing Ibar. Eric Ibar popped up, hit back to the box, and reached on an error by Corey Seager. Ibar, a switch hitter, so he's been batting right-handed against Kershaw. He'll turn around, try his luck from the other side. Ibar hitting .265 left, .279 right. And a strike. What power Ibar has, 2 home runs, and they've both been hit, batting left-handed. So the boy from Bani in the Dominican Republic. 0-1. Ibar with that .268 overall batting average. 2 home runs, 38 runs batted in. He's also scored 61 as the leadoff man. And ball 2. Ibar, for about the first 64 games, was hitting in the 240s. Since then, he's hit close to 300 since June 19th. 2-1. Foul ball, 2-2. In his first at bat last night, Ibar had a base hit. He was 0 for 15. Got that hit. Tonight he is 0 for 3. Ibar went 1 for 3 last night with a walk and a stolen base. 2-2. Fastball whacked to right. Back goes Ethier at the base of the wall, and this one is off the wall. Into second base goes Ibar with a double. So Eric Ibar, very much a contact hitter. Hard to get the ball by him. A leadoff double to right. Bam. Down around the knees. Off the top of the wall, maybe a foot from clearing it. So Ibar, whose power is left-handed, and he opens up with the double. Now Freese, Victorino, and Iannetta trying to get him home. Freese struck out and singled twice. Down in the Dodger bullpen, just in case things get hairy, Kenley Jansen begins to loosen up. Ball 1. There's Kenley. Dodgers left 8 tonight. So far, the Angels have left 5. 1 ball and no strikes to David Freese. Fastball hit down the right field line, and that's in there. So that'll score Ibar. Freese coming up with his 3rd hit, moves into second, and it's 6-3 Dodgers with nobody out. Back-to-back doubles. So Baez blistered by Ibar, followed by Freese. 3 hits and a run batted in for David. And the batter now, Shane Victorino. Caleb Cowart will run now for Freese out there at second base. And David Murphy, a left-hand hitter, will be coming up. So Cowart running for Freese, and Murphy batting for Victorino. And let's see, does that force Mattingly's hand? Back-to-back doubles? Find out in a moment. Well, while we wait, here comes Kenley. We'll be right back. always gets you really is when you look at strikeouts to walks. It's amazing. Jansen only 5 walks and 69 strikeouts. He made 17 pitches in the game last night and struck out 2. He did give up a base hit, and that was a ball hit back to the box by Calhoun. Jansen, in his follow-through with his back turned, tried to slap at the ball, and he was successful. He slapped the ball right back to A.J. Ellis. Ellis ran up and then overran the ball and couldn't pick it up. So here is Murphy. Murph started in left field last night. Ground ball to Gonzalez. He'll take it to the bag for the first out. Over to third goes Cowart. And the batter due up, Chris Iannetta, and they'll go to Matt Joyce. Matt Joyce appeared as a pinch hitter in the 8th inning last night and struck out. So Murphy hit the ball hard, a one-hopper. Cowart at third, 1 out. Jansen, and we always look it up, with a runner at third. He does not have a wild pitch. 6-3 favor the Dodgers. 1 out in the 9th. Ball 1. Matt Joyce trying to pick up Cowart from third. And that's a strike. 1-1. Matt Joyce out of Florida, went to Florida Southern. Appeared as a pinch hitter last night, struck out. Originally signed by the Tigers and played for about 5 years with the Rays. 1-2. Mike Joyce, growing up near Tampa, idolized Fred McGriff. In fact, in his room he had a big poster of McGriff. 1-2. Two and two. Joyce certainly big enough to play the game. He's 6'2", a little over 200. Has some sock. 2 years ago, 18 home runs with the Rays. 9 last year. 5 home runs this year. 2-2. Just off the plate. So 3-2 to Joyce. On deck, David DeJesus. Borderline pitch. Showing a good eye just off the plate. DeJesus waiting his turn. Cowart down the line from third. And the 3-2 pitch. Check swing, ball 4. So DeJesus coming up all of a sudden represents a possible tying run. David DeJesus, interesting note about him, he's had 4 inside the park home runs in his career. He's from Brooklyn, New York, lives in Wheaton, Illinois, went to Rutgers University in New Jersey. Originally signed by the Royals. Spent some time, 2 years in the National League with the Cubs. DeJesus batting for Featherston. And ball 1. You can see a wrist guard stuffed in his pocket. 1 ball and no strikes. Interesting, umpires in the past would make you take that out. They would not allow you to have anything sticking up out of a hip pocket. There goes the runner to second, and that's ball 2. Of course, for Jansen, he is about as easy a man to run on if you can get on. So second and third, 1 out. And DeJesus trying to keep the inning alive. Two and 0. And a strike. So in the last 2 innings, the bullpen has given up 2 walks and a couple of doubles. Houston Street begins to warm up in the Angel bullpen. Dodgers lead 6-3. Angels threatening. Second and third, 1 out. Fouled away. So Baez started the inning, as usual, thrown very hard. But Ibar double to right. Freeze double to right to score Ibar. Coward ran for him. Entered Jansen. Murphy grounded a 1-hopper to Gonzalez. But now Joyce has walked. 2-2. And down up the middle to Utley. Gets it over, and did it pull him off the bag? No, he stayed on. A run scored to make it 6-4. That was quite a play by Adrian Gonzalez. Well, DeJesus grounding out to Utley. Take another look. Just by Jansen's glove. Utley just got it, and the ball sailed. Great play by Gonzalez to keep that left foot on the bag. Off balance throw, so it was anything but accurate, and a saving play by Gonzalez. So the Dodgers 6 runs, 7 hits, 2 errors. The Angels 4 runs, 6 hits, and 1 error. They're going to review that play at first base, understandably. Dodger fans say Adrian had his hand and glove on the ball and his foot on the bag. The Angels are saying no. It is a big play because the runner at first, DeJesus, if safe, is the tying run. All right, here's the answer. Out. So now here comes Cole Calhoun with Matt Joyce at third and 2 down. Calhoun on a 3-2 pitch homered in the first inning. Single to left against Kershaw in the third. Struck out in the 6th and struck out in the 7th. Now facing Jansen. Fouled away. Calhoun in last night's game had a base hit. It was a weird base hit. A slap job by Jansen, who slapped it back towards home plate. Ellis couldn't make the play. 0-1 the count. Another foul ball. So Jansen facing someone who was 2 for 2 against him in the past. Cole Calhoun. Calhoun, kind of a feast or famine hitter. He had a home run last night, but he also struck out 3 times. He's had a home run tonight, and he has struck out twice. Time 0-2 the count. Dodgers lead 6-4. Calhoun representing the tying run at the plate. 41,086. Watching this one tonight, a reminder, Garrett Richards tomorrow night against Matt Latos. Jansen trying to put Calhoun away, and by the way, on deck, Mike Trout. Oh, and 2. Fastball away. At third base, Matt Joyce. 2 out, 1 and 2, and the Dodgers lead by 2. At one time, they led 6-1. Away, not far enough. Joyce has to hold at third. 6 runs, 7 hits, 2 errors for the Dodgers. They have left 8. 4 runs, 6 hits, 1 error for the Angels. They have left 5. So it is all boiled down to this. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 in, and 1 at third. Curveball. Still 2 and 2. Angels trying to bounce back. Dodgers trying to beat them 8 straight. Two and 2 to Cole Calhoun. Mike Trout on deck, 1 for 6 against Jansen. That one was a home run. Fastball, got it. The Calhoun strikes out a third time. The Angels come close. They get 2 runs on a couple of doubles, leave a runner at third. Jansen made 18 pitches to quiet the side, and Calhoun goes down. So the Dodgers now have reduced the number to 16. They have beaten the Angels 8 in a row. Dodgers now have won 5 straight and 13 out of 15. The player of the game for sure had to be Clayton Kershaw. He went 7, made 106 pitches, picked up his 13th win of the year, and had 8 strikeouts to move him up to 261. So the Dodgers